Hello, my name is Rachel, and I'm the Learning Resource Specialist here at the Academic Support Center of Chesapeake College. I'm going to record a short film for you today about MLA citation for English 101 online classes. So, what is MLA is our first question. MLA stands for the Modern Language Association. It's used for citing in the liberal arts and the humanities. MLA style gives precedence to people, so in in-text citations you usually find the last name of the author that you're citing. Another citation style that you might use at Chesapeake is called APA. APA stands for American Psychological Association, and it's used mostly in the social sciences like sociology and psychology. APA style gives precedence to dates because in the social sciences, if information is recent or outdated is of a lot of importance, whereas in MLA, who wrote it is kind of more important. So, why cite? It's a good question. Before we get to the specifics, it's an important idea to know why you're doing all this, and it's a lot of work, so what's the point, and why is my teacher so insistent on everything being exactly correct? MLA citation is important because you need to give credit in your papers where credit is due. Sometimes if an idea or a paraphrased idea or a fact or a quotation didn't come from inside your brain, you have to let your readers know where exactly it did come from. That way, the person whose brain it did come from gets the credit for it. It's used to distinguish your individual ideas from other people's ideas. So say you're arguing in contrast of something. You could say, John Smith argued that da-da-da-da-da. In other words, I argue that da-da-da-da-da. But you need to give John Smith his credit for what his idea was, in contrast to your idea. MLA citations are also important because they help your reader find the specific part of your source material that you used to find your fact or your quotation. So an in-text citation is kind of like a signal device to help your readers find in your works cited page where to find the material that you were citing. It also makes the physical process of reading easier for your audience. It's like giving a lot of clues and a lot of context to your readers. It makes the writing and the reading process very smooth for your audience, which is always good. You want to help out your audience when they're reading. Finally, and probably most importantly, if you cite correctly in MLA, you're becoming part of an academic writing community. Now, what do I mean by that? If you're citing in MLA, the fact that you're using the rules of MLA show that you recognize that there are rules to writing in academics. Sometimes the rules might seem silly to you, like when to use a comma and when to use italics versus quotation marks, but the rules are important because they're part of a community, and by following the rules, you're part of that community, and your voice is part of that ongoing conversation. If you don't follow those rules, by contrast, this shows your reader that you're not really paying attention to the rules of the community, and they're not really trying to participate in the conversation, or they might say you're quote-unquote faking it. So, if you pay attention to the rules, you're giving credence to the idea that you're part of an academic writing community. So it's, I think, a useful way to spend your time, just brushing up your paper. So, I'm going to show you a few things today about MLA citation. Firstly, I'm going to show you how to find an MLA study guide. If you start here on our Chesapeake College homepage, and you go to your Academics tab and click on Library LRC, you'll see an option here for study guides. If you scroll down a bit, you'll see the MLA guide. Right now it's number 8, but it might not be when you go to it. This is a great study guide. There's me. that reiterates some of the ideas that I'm talking about today and also embeds a lot of really useful videos if that's your learning style and you learn better by watching videos rather than reading. You can find a lot of important tabs here about getting help from librarians, tools to help you cite, how to format your sources like articles, books, or film, and how to actually format your paper in Microsoft Word. we're going to start by formatting your paper. So, by clicking on that, you can see here some rules for formatting your paper in Microsoft Word, or whichever program you use. You could use Google Docs. Here are rules about margins, text, heading, titles, and page numbers. And then you can see a sample MLA paper to make sure that yours looks correct like this sample. So, in a Word document, I'm going to start one. Firstly, we need our margins, and the margins should be double-spaced. We want to make sure, I'm sorry, by margins, I meant the outside of the paper. So our margins should be 1 inch all around normal. By double spacing, that's spacing, a different topic. So I've confirmed that yes, our margins are 1 inch all around. And I also double spaced our paper, which is another correct thing to do. Text, I would always suggest staying with Times New Roman size 12 font throughout your entire paper. Your heading will be your name, in this case, my name, your instructor's name, who I'll say, I'm taking a class with Dr. John Smith, my class, followed by my section number, and the date. The date should come with the day, the month, and then the year. You'll space once, then center, followed by your title. It doesn't need to be in italics, in quotes, or bolded. To number your pages, you'll want a header. We'll want our header to be on the right side of the page, and we'll have our last name followed by the page number. There we go. Now, if we went onto another page, it would automatically say piles 2, which is great. However, you'll always want to follow your instructor's directions. If they give you any specific directions that goes against anything that I've talked about in this video, definitely follow what your teacher says. In our LibGuide, we can see our sample MLA paper to make sure that we're on the right track. And we do look like we're on the right track. So, when we go to formatting our sources, there's 2 different kinds of formatting sources, an in-text citation and a works cited entry, and we'll go over both today. Why do we use in-text citations? In-text citations are used to signal the reader that the preceding thought or quotation or an idea comes from somewhere else that wasn't in your brain. It also shows the reader exactly where to find the information in your works cited page should they want to know more, like to read the entire article or to read something before or after the quote that you used in your essay. You should use an in-text citation when you quote directly, when you paraphrase, summarize, or read words someone else's idea in your own words. All instances should use an in-text citation. It might look like you might have too many in-text citations in your paper if you have one after a lot of sentences, and the rule of thumb is it's always better to have more in-text citations than fewer. No one really gets in trouble for having too many in-text citations. But if you don't have enough, someone might think you might be plagiarizing, so definitely use them just in case of doubt. Here we can see the different kinds of in-text citations. If you use the author's name inside of the sentence, like example number 2, Wordsworth is the name of the author, the citation only has to have the page number that you used. After the quotation, in parentheses, you use the citation followed by a period at the end. However, in most cases, you might just have a direct quote, in which case you would follow it by the author's last name, the page number, and a period at the end. We're going to try this in our Word document too. Only one space in between your date and your title in the body of your paragraph. Every new paragraph starts with a tab. Today, I learned about MLA citation. The blonde lady wrote, that's me, that MLA, quote, helps students enter a conversation about academic writing, end quote. It came from me, Piles, 2. I'm going to pretend like I wrote a document, and that was on page 2. This is kind of a confusing example because I'm Rachel Piles, and I'm also citing Rachel Piles. But in this case, imagine that you're writing the essay. You wrote this sentence, and you're citing me, and my last name is Piles. And I wrote this in a document, and that was on page 2. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Finally, you'll also have a works cited page. Now that's on a separate page. So I'm going to space down to page number 2. You'll center, and the title of your works cited page will be Works Cited. This is because everything cited on this page is a work that you have cited inside of your paper, like a work of art. In the LibGuide, you can find examples of what a works cited page looks like, as well as specific examples on how to cite books, cite articles, and cite websites. I've included some screenshots to show you how if you use a library database, you might be able to find the citation quite easily by clicking on Cite inside of the database, as well as some videos to help you find your citations as well. So a citation for a book and an article is very different. The details about how to find these can probably best be found through these links. These links take you to the OWL at Purdue, a great resource for finding MLA or APA citation help. And it gives you all the different kinds of ways to cite different data, depending on whether or not your book has several authors or an illustrator or all sorts of different options. So your entries will vary depending on this. Remember that inside of your works cited page, your entries need to be alphabetized by last name. So if I have an author named Apple and an author named Brown, Apple will go before Brown. And if your entry goes onto a second line, you'll need a hanging indent. More information about this can be found on what a works cited page looks like here on the MLA OWL at Purdue lab. See how the second lines go in a little bit? This is called a hanging indent. And more information about this can be found on the study guide. Finally, keep in mind that there's also a subscription service that Chesapeake pays for called Noodlebib. More information about this can also be found on our LibGuide. For citation tools, you'll need to create an account for Noodlebib, but once you do, you only have to enter some specific questions about the sources that you're working with, and the Noodlebib kind of creates a citation for you, and you can go ahead and cut and paste that citation into your works cited page. And you can ask a librarian here at the LRC for more information about how to use that correctly. You'll always want to make sure to double check your Noodlebib citations against an MLA workbook citation to make sure that they're correct. And that's all for today. I hope that this video has helped you. Feel free to always ask your instructor for more help, or come over to the ASC and ask me. I'll be more than happy to help you with your MLA citations, as well as all my writing tutors here who are super awesome folks and know a lot about MLA. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.